Yo, 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 yo. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. Excited to be back for another live stream. My name is Justin Moore. I'm the founder of Creator Wizard, where I teach you how to find and negotiate your dream sponsorships. Today, we are talking about the fact that there are some creators that are getting sued right now. What the heck? And we do not want you to be next. So that's going to be the subject of today's live stream. I am going live on a bunch of different platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Actually, I'm not live on Instagram right now because I couldn't get it to work. There's something going on with my stream key. So not live on those platforms, but on the others. So if you're tuning in, let me know where you're tuning in from in the chat. I see Michael Robinson, Raiderman, J Robles 24, home of the JPs on TikTok. Good to see y'all. Let me know if you're tuning in on Instagram or TikTok. On LinkedIn, YouTube, any of those other platforms. I am feeling a lot better. As you know, I cut the stream short last week because I was not feeling well. But I am back here, so I'm excited to be doing another live stream today. So why don't we jump right into it? Because actually, I think I'm going to be having a special guest. Are you coming over here, Boo? Yeah. Come here. My wife is, as you know, my wife sometimes makes cameos. Oh, here she is. Whoa. Wow, she's doing a dance too. Whoa. That dance is for me. I'm going to edit that part out of the live stream. Oh my God.
Just kidding. Hi.
Wow.
Actually, not really.
Kidding, not kidding.
It was nothing. I'm just singing the pony song.
My goodness.
Hi, Aaron's House of Legos. Hi, Intolerant Furball. Hello, Restream.
We got TikTok over here.
Hey, TikTok friends. How are you?
Heart by Heart says you look so good.
Ooh, Heart by Heart. You mean Justin?
Is that me or her? I don't know.
You mean Justin? I know, that's right. I have a date with my bestie. Ooh, am I ruining?
Uh-oh. Touch it again. Just touch it once. Uh-oh. Can you scroll it back up? There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm over here ruining Justin's live. I'm sorry. Hi, friends. How are you? What are we talking about?
Today, we're talking about the creators that got sued because of the FTX scandal.
What's that?
I'm going to talk about it. It was this cryptocurrency exchange that went out of business.
Oh, the tea is piping.
Yeah, the tea is
boiling. The tea is, whew, you got to blow. Whew, whew. You got to put it in the freezer. It's so cold. I mean, it's so hot.
Scroll up on the TikTok so you can see the chat.
I'm scared.
There we go.
Hey.
Darren's at the brand money king and queen. There
Darren Monroe. Hi, Darren. How are you? Okay, I won't bother you guys no more. I can't wait to learn all about that tea, though.
Yeah, you can watch the replay.
Yeah. Okay, bye, friends. Have a great day.
Have fun, baby. Love you. Excuse me. You see how lucky I am, guys? Dang. Oh, my gosh. Thank you. Oh. I got you later. Don't worry.
That's what happens when I wear holes in the pants. There's some holes in these pants. There's some holes in these pants. Bye, friends.
Love you. Bye. Drive safe. Love you. Oh, my goodness. That is my wife, you guys. That is my wife, and I love her, and I'm very lucky, I must say. All right, guys, so let's dive into it. Before we get into the Q&A, as you know, these live streams, I always answer questions, any of your questions about sponsorship strategy, negotiations, brand deals, you know it. But today, let's first talk about the creators that are getting sued right now. This is insane, guys. Seriously, this is totally nuts. So, you may or may not have heard that several well-known finance YouTubers have become the subject of a $1 billion class action lawsuit, having promoted the now disgraced cryptocurrency exchange FTX. Okay. And so the plaintiffs are claiming that the money that they lost to the trading platform came as a direct result of its promotion by creators. Right? And so among these creators being sued are YouTubers Kevin Paffrath and Graham Stephan. And so let me know in the chat, have you heard about this? Have you heard about this article? In fact, I can share my screen just to kind of quickly show you like what is going on here, because there is an article. Let me share my screen. Share screen. Those of you who are not on, like those of you may not see it if you're like on TikTok or on TikTok and some of the other platforms. But if you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, you can see this article here. Popular finance popular finance YouTubers who hyped crypto company FTX are being sued. So, definitely like a really, really interesting situation. And so, kind of wanted to talk about this whole thing because, I have been involved in thousands of sponsorships at this point, but this is a pretty extreme outcome, right? But it got me thinking about the risk of agreeing to sponsorships in general, right? Without proper due diligence. And when I say risk, I mean both to the creator and to the creator's audience, right? And so I want to talk about 8 things to look out for in your next sponsorship so nothing like this ever happens to you. Okay, so before I do that, I just want to clarify, I'm not a lawyer, so you shouldn't construe this as legal advice. But again, if a brand reaches out to you via email inquiring about a partnership, before you say yes, I want you to consider asking yourself these 8 kind of risk mitigation questions, okay? So number 1, if you don't want to be sued as a creator, you need to ask yourself, how long has this company been around? Okay. I'm not saying that they have to be decades old, right? It's more about what they've done in the time that they've existed, right? So are there any legitimate testimonials from customers which show the brand has been able to provide value over a period of time? Right? That's number 1. Number 2, can you identify their track record in any other way? Right? So if a company with 0 social proof and a partially functioning website that was made last week reaches out, you need to be careful, right? I think a lot of times we kind of ignore our intuition when it comes to this kind of thing. We're so excited about, the money, they're going to pay me money to talk about them on my social media platform. And you just don't really do that much research. And you're just like, oh, okay, well, it looks a little shady, but it's okay. It's all right, right? And Tolerant Furlball says, I didn't hear about this one, but there was another one recently that was for a food product. Yeah. So this is something that, doesn't happen too often, but it can happen, which is why we're talking about it, okay? So if you do not want to be sued as a creator, the second thing that you need to ask yourself is, what type of sponsorship does the brand want, right? There are 2 very different styles of sponsorships that are going to significantly impact how you come across to your audience, right? And so the first one is kind of like a testimonial style, right? Like, I personally use this product or this service or this brand, and I love it, right? You should use it too. That's a testimonial style. Second type, which is more of an informational style, kind of like a podcast ad read. You've heard this, right? This is a brand or a product that you might be interested in. Check it out here. There's a difference there, right? And so you have to remember that a good sponsorship doesn't have to be from the brand that, from a brand that you've used for years, as long as you identify that brand as being valuable to your audience, right? However, if you are giving enthusiastic testimonials about the product or service, keep in mind that your audience could blame you more squarely if something goes wrong down the line. And so I think a lot of creators don't really think about this fact of when you are talking about a brand or a product or a service, the intonation, the way in which you execute that integration, the way you execute that collaboration matters, right? In terms of the way in which you're talking about it and how, your followers or your audience is actually, interpreting that when they listen to it, when they read it or when they watch it, right? And so, one piece of advice that I oftentimes give to creators is study how, lots and lots of ads, study how other people are doing it, study, the best creators out there that you think are doing a great job at talking about partnerships and stuff. How are they doing it? What is the way in which they're integrating their brand partners? And because that stuff matters. I even say, start reading books on sales psychology and how you can be a more effective communicator, how you can utilize storytelling, in your content. That can make a huge difference in terms of how how that comes across to your audience, right? So I just wanted to mention that one. So let's talk about the third thing. So if you are a creator who does not want to be sued, you have to ask yourself, how legit does this brand seem that is reaching out? You always have to perform what I call legitness test, right? That was a play on litmus test. Come on, right? And so there's a number of ways you can do this. Number 1, look them up on LinkedIn. Do they have actual employees, right? Does customer support exist? Right? Is there live chat? Is there a phone number? Is there a phone number that people can call? And just, again, does it feel like a scam? Sometimes you just know in your gut, and creators love ignoring that feeling. They love ignoring that red flag, and you absolutely should not, right? Because if something seems off, it probably is, and you should not be exposing your audience to that. Okay, so oftentimes these things are kind of obvious, but for some reason we kind of ignore them as creators. And in this situation here, especially with FTX, is a prime example of that. It seems like, oh, everyone's like promoting them, and these big name celebrities. It's tough. I understand in this situation, it's tough. There's lots and lots of people who are promoting this giant company. There's VCs investing in it. It seems like a relatively safe thing. So this is a particularly tough situation. The fourth thing I wanted to talk about. So if you are a creator who does not want to be sued, you have to ask yourself, does this brand offer a product or service that would provide my audience with tremendous value, right? This is a question that you should ask yourself before every sponsorship. Right? You have to objectively assess what the brand offers and decide whether your audience would thank you for connecting them with that brand. Right? Again, you have to look for testimonials that confirm what I call product audience fit if you were to promote it. You can't just take every brand or product offer that comes along, because that's going to degrade, that's going to erode your audience's confidence in you over time. And that is the last thing that you want as a creator, right? Let me know in the chat, like, if you have thoughts on this. I have a couple other items I want to talk about, but I'm gonna take a swig. Like, I thought this whole thing was just kind of insane. Phil's Lawn Care, what's up, Phil? Says you got to know your audience. It's so critical. 100%, Phil. So number 5, let's talk about it. If you're a creator who does not want to get sued, you have to ask yourself, are there potential downsides doing this collaboration for my audience? More importantly, how significant are those downsides, even if they're unlikely to occur, right? You might argue that the creators who are being sued in certain situations, like with FTX, they couldn't have known that it would collapse. And again, that may be fair, but what level of harm could your audience experience by following your recommendation, right? In the case of that whole FTX debacle, the potential downside was huge because hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of the audience's capital was at stake. Right. And so, of course, it's not going to be the same type of risk with other niches, for example, but it's worth kind of playing devil's advocate, putting yourself in the shoes of your audience and walking through the worst case scenario. Right. So, again, if you are a finance YouTuber, or you're someone who, helps people make money, or even for me, like, this is something that I think about, because I'm in kind of a niche where I'm helping people make money. I'm helping them grow their businesses. And so, I think about, okay, if I'm going to recommend a product or recommend a brand or service or something like that, is there a material way in which, if this thing went really, really wrong, that this could impact my audience's pocketbook, or they, impact their wallet, or impact their life or their business in a very detrimental way? I think about that stuff, right? Yeah, maybe the lifestyle influencer, the food influencer. I mean, in fact, Intolerant Furball mentioned something here that, there was this, I can't remember the brand name. I think it was, oh my God, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a meal prep food delivery type service, I think. And they had some ingredient, I think, that went out in one of their products that was making a bunch of people sick. And they had all these influencers, promoting the product and all this stuff too. And then a bunch of people started coming for those creators and those influencers and all this stuff too. So it's serious. This is a real thing. This happens. And so these are really important questions to be able to ask yourself when you're vetting these types of partnership. We got Milton Hernandez 24 joining, Zozo Lit, Cecilia Williams joining in. Good to see you here. We've got Hanadi. What's going on, Hanadi? Good to see you here in the chat. All right, so let's roll on to the next couple points I want to mention here before we get into the Q&A. So if you're a creator who does not want to be sued over a brand partnership, you have to ask yourself, have any other creators shared a horror story on the internet somewhere of working with that brand? Right? You have to do sleuthing, basically. You can Google the heck out of the brand. That's number 1, right? Number 2, you can search them up across social media, right? Across their platforms. What are people saying about them? Maybe you're going to look on Glassdoor, right? Are there any terrible employee reviews, right? A red flag is a red flag no matter who's waving it, right? And so I think a lot of times we just don't do any sleuthing at all as creators. We get completely blinded by the dollar signs that this brand is waving in our face. And it's just like, no, let me actually take the extra step of just doing doing a little bit of sleuthing and seeing how people are talking about them on social media, right? This is a real thing. Jefe Reviews has got the little eyes emojis in the chat. Like, yeah, you want to know, you're here for the tea, right? I think you're here for the tea, and that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the whole FTX scandal. Let's talk about the seventh point, which is, if I am a creator who does not want to be sued over a brand partnership, I'm going to be asking myself, am I legally protected if things blow up, like in the FTX situation, right? Again, this should not be construed as legal advice. You have to consult a lawyer. But personally, I like to ensure at a minimum that my contracts have what's called mutual indemnification and limitation of liability clauses, right? Because a lot of agreements, like, they don't afford that to you, right? And also, if the brand can terminate the deal if you do something insane, right? Shouldn't you also have that right if the brand does something nuts, right? A lot of brands and agencies have clauses that say stuff like, the influencer will not commit any act which, as determined by the agency or the client in its sole discretion, brings the agency or client into public disrepute or, contempt or scandal or ridicule, right? This is some of the language that they use. Then the client or the advertiser, whatever, can just terminate the agreement. Basically without limitation, in their sole discretion, essentially. So, these clauses, oftentimes don't afford that in return to the creator. It's like if the brand or the product, or, the service or whatever does something crazy, and, it comes out that there's this big scandal or whatever, you as a creator should have the ability to terminate that deal too. Why should you not have that ability, right? So that's something that you should always ask for. Again, you should always consult a lawyer in these types of situations. But again, I've done hundreds and hundreds, actually thousands of sponsorships at this point, between both my personal, business with my wife as well as the agency. And this is a type of thing that you have to think about. Right? It's not just the brand that should be able to terminate deals in these situations. It's the creator. What happens if you have a 12-month deal with a brand? Okay. And that brand on month 7 does something insane, right? And there's all this public scrutiny over it and cancellation and all that stuff too. And you don't even want to, you want to terminate the deal. You want to be like, you know what? I can't, my audience is coming for me. I can't do this deal anymore. And the brand says, sorry, you signed a deal. You signed a deal that says you're going to complete the partnership for the next 5 months. We need you out there defending us. We need you out there making content, continuing to say we're awesome. You better have the ability in that agreement to terminate that deal. Don't you think? That's a really important thing. What's up, Lavonda Rocks? Great to see you. Don't you think? So anyways, I think that's a really important thing. All right. If you're a creator that does not want to be sued and you're trying to consider whether doing a partnership, you have to decide overall, do the pros outweigh the potential cons, right? Even a single red flag could be cause for concern, but you have to weigh everything on a case-by-case basis, right? And so you absolutely cannot stake the reputation that you've worked so hard to build on a one-time payday. I think this is something that a lot of creators do. They don't have this longer-term perspective on, the reputation that they have. Right, long term, and they think people are always going to support me, but all it takes is one bad deal or one bad recommendation or testimonial for everyone to turn on you. Do you want that? You've worked years and years, oftentimes, to build this connection, have integrity, and that's so important to you, and it could all come crumbling down. So this is like a real thing that you have to think about, and all this business that you've built. This actually extends to the things that you say on social media. Lots of people, we live in an age, sadly, of it's kind of like cancel culture, right? And so some throwaway comment that you can make on Twitter or something could just blow up, and all of a sudden all your brand sponsors pull out, your audience turns on you. It's like it can get very ugly. I've seen it happen so many times. My wife and I have been on YouTube since 2009, so believe me, we've seen this happen so many times that people just don't look at their kind of identity on social media, their persona, and think about the things that they say, right? And people come to me and be like, well, yeah, but I don't want to have to filter myself. Like, that's so sad, like all this kind of thing. And I'm just like, okay, fine. But if the way in which you derive livelihood, the way in which you derive your income is from your social media identity, then this stuff matters. You have to think about it. Maybe log off for the day. Go take a walk. You don't need to tweet every other like thought that you have, right? It's just my opinion. Lavonda says, heck yes, right? Latinx Montessori says, super helpful and informative. El Jefe Reviews says, agreed. Glad to hear that it's helpful. So again, generally, my thought process on this whole FTX debacle is that this one in particular, I think, was very hard because if you did a lot of this stuff that we were talking about here about the sleuthing and the investigation, everything for a lot of people checked out, right? You go and you look on their website and they have a who's who of investor list, right? The top venture capitalists. You've got Tom Brady and Giselle investing in it. You've got all these celebrities. You've got all these other influencers, really big influencers promoting it, right? Day in and day out, right? And so if you're a smaller influencer that maybe doesn't have the ability to do all this crazy vetting and stuff like that, like that really is a crazy, challenging, thing to avoid because on the surface, everything looked great, right? And so I think that that's like this one in particular probably was like the most difficult situation. And I actually empathize with these creators who are being sued because number one, it's like, I think that there's, to some degree, people who try to put together these class action lawsuits, feel as though, okay, maybe there's a quick buck to be had here, or maybe there's a way in which we can recover some of our funds. Again, it's this situation where it's like you're promoting a product that directly could impact people's financial situation, which is different than like if you're recommending, hey, go buy this T-shirt or something, right? Yeah, maybe you can get a rash from it or something, but it's just like the exposure is different, the risk is different, and so I think that's why it's like such a particularly challenging situation with this one in particular. El Jefe Reviews says people love posting on their socials and then wonder why some brands won't reply to them. That's exactly what I'm saying, Jeff. Man, what is going on? People just don't. Especially my favorite is when brands like they post on social media and they talk trash about another brand. And then they wonder why brands don't reach out. Oh, this brand, they reached out to me. They were being difficult, like blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, go share that in your group chat, in your group text thread where you can commiserate with other creators. You really want to flame that brand because these new brands, they're sleuthing you. They're going out and they're looking at your Twitter, they're looking at your social media and all this stuff, right? And then they see you talking trash about this other brand and then they think to themselves like, oh man, if anything even goes remotely wrong when I'm working with this creator, they're going to go turn to Twitter or they're going to go turn to their TikTok and talk smack about us. I think we're going to pass. I think we're going to go work with this other creator over here. Like this stuff happens. Believe me, right? When I ran the agency, we did this vetting process when we worked with certain brands who they mandated, hey, we need to make sure that everyone we work with has a brand safe, kind of family friendly persona. They're not talking, crazy. Even if it's a YouTube partnership or even if it's a podcast, newsletter partnership, whatever, we need to go make sure that their Twitter is squeaky clean as well, right? So this stuff matters. When you are applying for a job, do you think people aren't Googling you? It's the same thing. People are doing this. Like in this day and age, if you've ever gotten a cold message or anyone, maybe you are like interviewing people and you're looking at resumes, aren't you Googling this person? Aren't you doing a little bit of sleuthing and being like, oh, like, well, let me look at their LinkedIn. Let me look at their website or their personal social media. If it comes up, I Google their name and their social media pops up. I'm just going to look at it, right? So this is stuff that brands are doing all day long, and if you think they're not, they are, and it should be a rude awakening. Let's see here. I just wanted to quickly acknowledge. I got a message here from MK said. They had a question. First of all, they said, just got the #1 gifter badge. Holy cow, Ray. Thank you so much. Should I say Ray? Thank you so much for that. I really, really, truly appreciate that. I don't really understand how gifting works on TikTok, so that really means a lot to me. Thank you. And I want to answer your question, Ray. What is your best brand outreach strategy? Let me tell you, my best brand outreach strategy, Ray, is let's back up a second here. So my best brand outreach strategy generally is tagging brands on social media. A lot of creators think like, I don't want to tag brands on social media because if I do, they're gonna look at that and they're gonna be like, thank you so much, and then we're never gonna pay this person because they're already posting about me. That's what they think. Like, oh, like why would a brand pay me if I'm already talking about them for free? And let me help you understand actually what happens behind the scenes. Because when a brand reaches out to a creator for a paid partnership, there's very specific things that they want this creator to say and do to incentivize a particular action. So when a brand decides like, hey, we're going to run a summer campaign right now, or we're going to run a holiday campaign or something, if you're just randomly tagging that brand on social media, talking about how much you love them, you are not saying those talking points. You're not saying like, oh, run into, your local retailer because, there's a Memorial Day sale or whatever. You're not saying that when you're organically talking about the brand. And so when you actually tag them initially, organically, that helps get them on your radar. How will this brand know that you're an authentic fan or your audience is authentic fans of the brand unless you're starting to talk about them? There's hundreds, tens of thousands of creators out there, and you have to, this is the best way to get on brands' radars. And oftentimes the brands will say, oh, thank you so much for posting. Can we repost this? Thank you so much. A lot of creators be like, oh, man, this sucks. They're getting all my content for free. Like this should be your foot in the door. This brand is illustrating to you that they find value in your content. And so you shouldn't just say, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, please post it and tag me, right? That's almost never going to result in more followers or exposure for you. It's almost never going to result in, a paid partnership with you if you're just saying yes to these types of things. That is now your foot in the door to actually say to them like, hey, thank you so much. I'm so glad to hear that you love the content that I created talking about your brand. I actually have like 3 other ideas of how I could, bring your product to life in my content. Typically repurposing my content requires an investment. I'd love to hop on a call. Are you free on Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk about not only licensing that piece of content, but some other new content that I have in mind to create for you. So you utilize this opening as a way to pitch and upsell other business, right? And so it's like these types of strategies and things that you should be more thoughtful about your approach with brands. But that really is my best outreach strategy, is like understanding how you can provide value to a brand that helps differentiate you from all of your peers, right? Because everyone else is saying yes for free. That's never going to change. You shouldn't get frustrated about it. Everyone is always, there's always going to be hundreds of upcoming, upstart, or what's the word? Like up and coming creators who are always going to say yes for free. There's nothing, you cannot get frustrated about that. That is always going to happen over and over and over and over. And so it's your job to educate the brand, to illustrate and articulate to them why they should pay you. Take the ownership back. Don't be a victim. Say, you know what? It's my job to educate brands and help them understand why they have to pay me $5,000 to do this. Okay? I'm huge about this. It's like taking the ownership back. I understand. I see people all the time getting frustrated on Twitter and TikTok, all this stuff. Oh man, like we have to collectively band together as creators and stop accepting free stuff and all that stuff. And that's all good and well. I agree with that sentiment, but it's not going to ever happen. There's always going to be people who are saying yes for free, and there's nothing you can do about that. And so you have to have an active strategy instead of a passive one, right? You have to take an ownership strategy instead of a victimhood strategy. That's really at the end of the day, it's what a lot of my advice comes back to. And a lot of people will call me, you're being like, you're this whole tough love thing. But that's the place that I come from. I feel like that's going to yield more results over time, honestly. Let me scroll down here. All right, let's see here. I want to make sure that I had that I was able to answer Ray's question here. But I have all these things here. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. A skincare nerd say, yeah, exactly. When you're talking trash about brands on social media, now you seem like a liability. Gabriella Dot says fire emoji. George Blackman is gracing us in the chat today. Thank you for your tough love, J-Dog. Man, what's going on, George? For those of you guys who don't know, George is an indispensable part of my team. He is a writer. He is a strategist. He helps me run my content strategy, honestly, for Creator Wizard in the business. So I'm so thankful for you, George. Got to give you a little shout out. Do you have YouTube videos on your YouTube channel? Now I want to go and look. Are you uploading your TikToks as shorts on YouTube? I'm really curious. We've got Chris from It's Mead Made tuning in. The tough love is much needed, Justin. Good to see you. Chris and his wife are students of my Brand Deal Wizard program. Chris, can you believe that it is almost over? Cohort number 8 is almost over as of next week. I just can't believe it. It always flies by. It's nuts. So good to see you here, Chris. All right. Question here. Actually, real quickly, wanted to make a comment that Hanadi said, yes, so true. We had a well-known brand reach out with great numbers, but at the time, the brand was having issues with their customers, so we didn't want to be affiliated, so we turned it down. Wow. Hanadi, like that is huge insight. That is hugely interesting that you had the foresight to just not even wade into those waters. Like, I know it's tempting because, especially if the brand is really large and that budget seems pretty large, that you turn that down is pretty impressive. So, little golf clap for you there. Texas to Table in the chat said, could you discuss the difference in strategies you use when approaching very large brands versus smaller brands in the same space or niche? This is a great question. So what is the difference between approaching a small brand or a large brand, right? When you're trying to forge a partnership as a creator. So the first point is that the types of titles that you should reach out to is very different in those two scenarios. Let's say you're pitching, wanting to pitch a very large brand, Walmart, Target, like Nike, whatever, right? A lot of creators think like, I'm going to go find the social media manager on LinkedIn. That's the person that I'm going to pitch. There is absolutely no reality and no world where the social media manager for Nike has anything to do with paid partnerships with creators. A giant organization like that has outsourced community engagement to probably their advertising agency, right? And so the social media manager, even if they work directly for the brand, they're just dealing with customer service issues, right? They're dealing with like engagement, right? Replying to people on social media. They are not forging like paid partnerships with creators, right? And so again, like especially like when you're reaching out and you're like DMing the brand on Instagram, that person that's responding to you at that big brand handle, that person probably, number one, if it's a giant corporation, does not work at the brand. That's an agency that's doing that, right? Or if it is someone who actually does directly work with the brand, there is a whole other department internally that is actually deciding when they actually hire creators for paid campaigns. And so you have to start familiarizing yourself with the types of titles that would be responsible for that type of thing. So influencer marketing manager, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, right? Most consumer brands have a title like that. They have people who have job titles with influencer marketing manager, partnerships marketing manager, or whatever, digital marketing manager, digital strategist, influencer coordinator, right? These types of titles. If it's a B2B brand, same thing, partnership strategy, partnership manager, this type of idea. And so understanding like not all titles are made equal is a really important part of this. On the other hand, if it's a smaller brand, if it's a small to medium sized brand, you go on LinkedIn and you see they only have, let's say 15, 20, 30 employees. Yeah, maybe the head of marketing is going to be the person because there's no other people in the marketing department. That's the only person. So they're doing everything. They're wearing all the hats. They're doing the Google pay-per-click ads. They're doing the Facebook ads. Yeah, they're doing some partnerships working with creators. Then that's the person that you should reach out to. The other really important thing about a smaller organization, if you're trying to pitch them, it's going to be a really hard sell to come into them and be like, hey, I'm a creator. I have like 50,000 followers on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. Pay me $3,000 to talk about your brand. They're going to be like, honestly, 99% of our budget is we're doing paid ads, right? We know that if we put $1 into Facebook ads, like we're going to get like $2.50 out, right? Like that's our return on ad spend. And so they're thinking like, I'm going to pay you $3,000. Like, what am I going to get in return? Like, are you going to guarantee me like $9,000 or whatever it is? And you're like, no, I can't guarantee those sales. And they're thinking, okay, they're basically going to say thanks, but no thanks, right? So this is, again, I'm in their head. This is what they're thinking. I'm trying to help you understand. Put your hat on if you were the marketer, if you were the brand, if you own a brand. Wouldn't you think that if you were you ran a kind of a small business and some creator came and pitched you that, wouldn't you be like, walk me through this here? Like, if I'm going to pay you this much money, like, what is this going to translate into for me? Right. And so this is where their mind is at if they're a small business. And so your angle, your strategy when you reach out to a smaller brand like this is not, hey, I'm going to pay me $3,000. I'm going to talk about you on my YouTube. It's, hey, pay me $3,000 and I'm going to help you make more compelling ads to get a more efficient ad spend or help you get a better ROAS, a better return on ad spend, right? And so then they're thinking like, oh, okay, yeah, let's talk about this. This is interesting. This is a really good, I've never thought about that. Like we were just like hiring a photographer or we were making the ads ourselves internally. And yeah, we know they're not that great, but you actually, it seems like you really know your stuff when it comes to actually making compelling content. Yeah, let's actually talk. Let's talk, right? So again, it's like putting yourself in the shoes of the brand, understanding where they're at. Like, again, this changes if it's a very large organization. They have different goals and all that stuff too. But it's just like, this is a lot of the stuff that I teach in my coaching and my courses and my content and stuff is you're not just a creator. You're a consultant. You can help the brand. You empathize with them. You help understand where they are at in their journey and in their life cycle as an organization. What are the challenges that they're going through, right? What are their goals for 2023, let's say? Who are their competitors? Are they facing stiff headwinds? There's a lot of economic instability right now. How can they better, market and advertise to their customers? If you start to ask yourself those questions, start to ask the brand those types of questions, they're going to all of a sudden think like, oh, okay. Yeah, Justin actually is smart. He can help us think through some of this stuff, think through our social media strategy, and maybe we should pay him to help us advise in that situation, right? So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. George Blackman said, "Oh shoot, I think I unlisted the worst of them." No, man, come on. You got to lean into the discomfort. You got to lean into that, man. Come on. I have so many old videos on my YouTube channel that are so cringeworthy. Oh my goodness. It's Mead Made. Chris said it's gone by so fast. Yes. Brand Deal Wizard always goes by super fast. It's insane. Yeah. So, hopefully, who was the question that I asked? Texas to table. Hopefully that answered your question. All right, so let me know, what are your questions about brand deals and sponsorships and negotiations? My time is your time on these live streams. I was just thinking actually recently that I have done almost 3 years worth of live streams. I think I started doing live streams, maybe 2.5 years. I think I started doing live streams in June 2020, maybe is around when it was. So it's almost been 3 years that I've been doing basically weekly live streams. It's pretty insane. So yeah, it's I can't believe it's been that long. And it's funny. I have two really exciting announcements, but I was thinking to myself the other day that I've gotten so much more confident on camera. It's amazing how just doing something over and over and over, whether it's the jitters or whether it's just like how articulate you are, just like forcing yourself to do something over and over and over and over, you can't help but get better. It's impossible not to get better. I think that's one of the most interesting things about having consistency when you're a creator, is that just by virtue of putting in the work, you get better at it, right? Because the other thing too is that when you when you go back and kind of watch what I call game tape, right? You go back and you watch the replay of it. You think, man, I don't like how much I'm saying I'm going to stop doing that. Or I hate how much I say like. I say like all the time. It's like a constant battle for me. Or I want to look more dynamic on camera, or I don't like my background, or whatever. You just always are if you want to grow, you watch game tape, right? And you kind of look to see how you could improve. Game tape is the equivalent of an athlete going in and watching the highlights of their performance from that performance of that game that day or whatever, and you think, oh, this is how I'm going to improve, or let me perform better, or I'm going to hit the gym more because I can notice my endurance was lagging throughout at the tail end of the game or whatever. So it's the same idea. How can I get better as a creator? I can watch game tape, right? So it's just pretty crazy. One thing that I want to two things actually that I want to announce, that's very exciting. Hold on. Number one, this is crazy. Okay. This is nuts. I'm going to share my screen here, guys, because this is maybe it'll happen live. It would be wild if this happened live while I was on the call. But I want to call attention here. Look at this number, real quickly here. 19,953 creators on my newsletter. I am about to hit 20,000. Can you believe this? Wouldn't it be wild if this happened live while I'm on the call here? 19,953 creators. I'm going to hit 20,000 on my newsletter. I had 8,000. Let me go back to real quickly. Let me show you where I was at. Let me show you the last 3 months. Let me show you where I was at on. Look at how wild this is. Hold on. Last, actually, I think I need to do last 6 months. Oh no, because I need to do to date. Okay, here we go. So from December 1st, look at this. I was on January 1st of 2023, I was at 8,866 creators on my newsletter. This is less than 2 months ago, and I am now at 19,953. What the heck? I've grown more than 100% in the last like 45 days. Like, how nuts is that? That is so wild to me. That would be so crazy if we hit 20,000 on the stream. So that's number one. The second thing that I'm really excited to share, guys, this is, you gotta, like, we gotta do some, like, we gotta get some emojis or something for this. I was just invited to do my very first main stage talk at a major conference. Holy cow, guys. Are you killing me, right? Are you kidding me right now? Can we get some applauses? Can we get some cha-chings in the chat? I have done a fair amount of like kind of side, like workshop-y type things where it's like I go to a conference and I do kind of like a breakout session. And you know, there's like a kind of like a handful of people in the room, maybe 40, 50 people, that type of thing. But then they have like kind of like the main ballroom or like the main stage where like the big people go, and that's where there's like hundreds of people, right? And so I just got invited to do my very first one. And so, you know, I'm so excited because I had this goal. Like it's a goal of mine. Like I wanted to do more public speaking, and yeah, it's just like I'm really, really excited because it's just like another level. And you know, the really interesting thing about this that I found is that if you want to build it, let's talk about personal brand real quickly. Like in October of 2020, I've told this story before, but like in October 2020, I set a goal that I wanted to be known as the sponsorships guy on social media. This was a goal of mine. And so I hired a strategist, basically someone that I met on Twitter. And I basically told him, I said, this is my goal. I want to, you know, within 1 year, I want everyone to know me as this guy. And so we devised a strategy. It was like 10 tweets a day, and like, you know, repurpose all the tweets for Instagram posts, and like, you know, I'm going to be doing the live streams, and I'm going to make videos. I'm going to do all just like a full court press on content. Right. And honestly, fast forward to even basically a year after that, or a year and a half after that. And anytime any creator started like posting on Twitter that they were having issues with sponsorships or brands or like negotiations or whatever, I would get so many people, this still happens, I would get so many people tagging me like, hey, Justin, you know, talk to Justin, right? And so it's just this really interesting development that like when you do something over and over and over and you kind of nail this topic, this niche, amazing things start to happen. And so case in point, like I started getting invited onto all of these live streams, all of these podcasts, all of these, you know, who I would look up to, these educators in the space who have been on YouTube, like the Roberto Blakes of the world, the Daniel Batals, the Nick Nimmons of the world, you know, the Sean Cannells, Think Media, like all the vidIQ, all these people who have been doing this for a super long time. I got invited on their shows. I got invited on their podcasts to like talk about this thing, this expertise that I've developed over the years, right? And so the interesting thing is that when you start getting on those shows, you start getting invited to bigger and bigger and bigger opportunities, right? So for example, like I, you know, would get on a pod, like I was on Nathan Barry's podcast, or I can't remember how Nathan first heard of me, but like I was on someone else's podcast, and then Nathan, who is he's the CEO of ConvertKit, which is a $30 million company. He invited me on his podcast, and then I was on Nathan's podcast, and then Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income heard me on Nathan's podcast, and so Pat invited me on his podcast, and then so it's like, and then I've got invited on bigger and bigger podcasts because people heard me on SPI, and then they booked me for one-on-ones, or they booked me, signed up for my course because they heard me on Pat's podcast, right? And then similarly with the speaking stuff, like I have spoken at VidFest now, and I spoke at CEX last year, and so now I got invited back to CEX, and then now I got invited to another conference, and then this opportunity that I just mentioned to do a main stage presentation, they had saw that I spoke at CEX, and right, so it's like it's so interesting how as you put yourself out there, you get these more and more opportunities to be on bigger and bigger stages. So it's like I think that this playbook that I ran basically over the last like 2.5 years, anyone can do it. I 100%, I believe that anyone can do it. If you just consistently you set a goal, you say, I want to be known as this person, this guy or this gal in this area, in this niche. I want to develop this personal brand or this expertise around this thing. And you just like over and over and over and over, you just like talk about this thing, then you are going to be known as that expert. Here's the thing, like, I am sitting and thinking every week about sponsorships. I'm thinking about every single different angle you could think about, talking about negotiation, like I have my sponsorship wheel. I've got pitching, negotiating, contracts, concepts, feedback, production, and now, publication, analysis, right? I've got this really, really detailed methodology that I teach in my course, and my coaching and everything. And so every single week I'm thinking about this stuff, right? Contrast that with a creator who is, talking about maybe they're talking about sponsorships sometimes, but most of the time they talk about other stuff. stuff, right? I just have so many more at bats. I have so many more chances at the free throw line, right? And so just by virtue of that, I'm going to be much better at this, right? And so anyways, like you could probably tell I'm like very passionate about this topic because I really believe in this idea that like, through repetition comes greatness. Like practice makes progress, not practice makes perfect at the end of the day, I think. Jefe Reviews says, doing the thing consistently helps so dang much. Live streaming weekly has helped me so much with thinking on the fly, and it translates to being more natural and relaxed in my videos. 100%, Jeff, like 100%. Totally agree with you. 100%. Thank you all so much for your love. I appreciate it. Yeah. El Jefe says, make a note to tag Justin on tweets. Yeah, man, tag me on tweets. Like anytime anyone's having issues, just tag me in, man. I love talking about that stuff. And Jeff says, that was my game plan. When people think of wireless headphones or earbuds, they think of El Jefe. It actually works. And you know what's amazing, Jeff? I bet you've found this, that not only does this help you grow with your content strategy, but it helps brands look at you as the expert there, and they're willing to pay you more money because like Jeff is the king when it comes to headphones or earbuds. So anytime there's a new product or new developments or a new brand or whatever, they're going to go to you because they want you to talk about their products, right? A lot of people be like, I don't want to pick a niche. I actually don't. I feel like I would be too pigeonholed by that. And I don't want to do that. I'm multi-passionate. I want to talk about all these different things. And in fact, y'all, this is the subject of my keynote that I'm going to be giving. And I'm calling it the Trojan horse strategy, because the interesting thing about niching down into this sponsorship coaching stuff that I do is that over the last 2 years, it helped people put me in a box. They started to realize like, okay, Justin is really good at this one thing. And so I developed a really engaged, intimate connection with my audience over this particular topic. And what happened over the last couple of years, and I grew this massive audience, is that now that I have established my credibility and my authority in this space, people have started coming to me for a lot more different types of advice, right? They've started coming to me for advice on other monetization. Like if people hire me, they book me for one-on-one calls. I don't just talk about sponsorship consulting anymore. I definitely do that. It's the bulk of it. But a lot of people will be like, hey, I want to launch a course. Can I talk to you about that? Or like, hey, I want to understand like my affiliate marketing strategy better. Or I really want to do like Amazon live streams, or I really want to do XYZ. I want to start an email list. I want to do this and start, like merchandise or do fan funding on Patreon. And people have started coming to me for advice because they really trust my expertise in this other area. And so what it has allowed me to do is that I went in with this kind of Trojan horse of like, hey, I'm going to help you with sponsorships. And then now that I'm in there and I have provided this expertise to people, now I'm taking a step back and being like, hey, here's all these other ways in which I can actually help you. And case in point, I just launched this brand new podcast, Creator Debates, where it's not just about sponsorships. I'm interviewing creators about all sorts of topics in the creator economy. And so this is going to be the subject of my keynote is like, I believe that this is a playbook that everyone can employ. If you feel as though you're multi-passionate and you want to talk about lots of different things, I believe that picking something that you're you're well suited, you have expertise in, you feel as though for 1, 2, 3 years you could really nail, and then after you have established the traction and the credibility in this particular subsection of the thing that you want to talk about, then you can take a step back and start exploring some of these other avenues. So I'm really excited to dig into this topic because I really truly believe that this is a playbook. This is something that anyone can do. And it helps resolve a lot of the internal dilemma that a lot of creators have around picking a niche. El Jefe says, I'm actually getting pitched to help brands behind the scenes now. Like, holy cow. That's incredible, Jeff. Congratulations, man. That's amazing. Let's see who we got tuning in on the TikTok chat. Matt Lady. Is that you, Matt? Mr. Matt Lady, is that you, dude? Good to see you, man. Aki Deman, good to see you. Who else we got here on the TikTok chat? Let's see. Akita Man, this is my first time seeing you. Where else are you live streaming from? Instagram, YouTube? Yeah, I am live streaming. I'm multi-streaming. So I'm on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, you name it. I'm live on a bunch of different platforms. So nice to connect with you. Let's see here. George says, can confirm I ask Justin non-sponsorship questions about 18 times a day, and he is a wise owl. I appreciate that, George. And that's the funny thing is I actually like talking about all these other things, right? And so, it's really exciting to me now that I can take this step back and man, I could talk about sponsorships from now until eternity. I really do. I'm so passionate about this topic, but there's all these other things that I think I do have a lot of experience in and advice based on, having been a creator for literally 14 years now. We started in 2009. I think I do have a pretty unique perspective on what it takes. Like how many, I don't want to toot my own horn. Actually, no, I'm going to toot my own horn. I'm going to toot my own. I don't have a horn, but I should have a horn. There are not that many creators that can say that they have been able to do this full time for going on 9 years. We've been creators for 14 years, but both my wife and I have been doing this full time for almost 9 years. So there's not that many creators that can say that. And so that doesn't happen by accident. It's not like we have 20 million followers. We don't. We have maybe 1.5 million, but between all of our platforms, we have no single platform that has over 1 million followers. We have hundreds of thousands, yes, but across our entire business, we're not I would say we're kind of solidly mid-tier, right? And so, yeah, it'd be easy to look at, someone who has 20 million and be like, oh, of course they can be full-time. They have opportunities out the wazoo. And that has never been the case for us. Yeah, we have a steady flow of opportunities, right? But that's because we built that over a decade, right? And we've nurtured a bunch of relationships. We've heavily diversified our business and our income streams. We have a bunch of different ways in which we're driving income. And that happened over many years. That didn't happen by accident. We were very thoughtful about it. And we made a ton of mistakes along the way. I haven't talked about this a ton just because it hasn't come up, but my wife and I tried to launch a course 9 years ago, 10 years ago, right? And it was a massive failure. And we got flamed heavily on social media. It was not as accepted back then to monetize your kind of following and influence in that way 10 years ago, basically. And so what happened was that, we had started vlogging on YouTube and we were getting hundreds of thousands of views per video. We were kind of on the upward trajectory on YouTube, and people were super, super interested in our relationship. Right. And so all the time, constantly people were asking us questions, emailing us, I'm having issues with my husband, relationship, all this stuff. And, I have always thought that, my wife and I have been together 16 years now. And I've always thought that we have a really, really solid relationship. And we used to do these videos that were Q&A videos around relationship advice and all that stuff. And I thought, we felt as though we have a lot to provide to people in terms of giving them tools and frameworks to improve their relationships, improve themselves, and things like that. And so we got approached by a company who had seen these kind of Q&A videos that we were doing and all these people following us for advice, relationship advice and all that stuff. And so this company approached us and be like, hey, I think we can help you guys make a course around, it was kind of a membership / course around improving your relationships. And we were like, yes, this is amazing. Let's do it. And so we literally went and huddled. This was one of the major mistakes that we made is we went and we went into a vacuum and we developed this product or this course in a vacuum. We didn't let any of our people know about it. We just started making, we designed all these tutorials and videos. It was a course, right? Homework. There was homework, things you had to do, go back and talk to your partner and communicate and all this stuff. It was honestly, it was amazing. I think it was amazing, right? And time came to launch it, right? And we announced it oh my gosh, we're so excited. And it was not that expensive. I think it was $20 a month or something, right? Pretty modest. It was not that much expensive. And it was I think it was a 6-month program or whatever. So again, contrast that to my Brand Deal Wizard program, which is $3,000 the investment, right? But it was $20 a month, right? And we just got absolutely flamed. Sell out. How could you? You're taking advantage of us. All this stuff. And a lot of the feedback came down to this thing of we didn't even know you were doing this, and you were hiding this, and all this stuff. And so, one of the big mistakes that we made is that we did not let people into the process of the fact that we were developing this and letting them in behind the scenes and all this stuff. And also, yes, pop culturally, in the zeitgeist. It was not really a thing that creators were doing at that time in the same way, where they were kind of doing courses and memberships and all that stuff too. And so we were very early, I think, to this thing, and that's another reason why it failed. But it was like a big learning lesson for us that, like, there was a lot of things that we did wrong. And so, again, I'm just telling this anecdote that, like, this has not been this like rocket ship to success for us over the years. There's been this was literally 10 years ago. And so we had to come back for that. We had to, kind of come back with our hat in our hand and figure out kind of what's next, and, kind of look at other different ways in which we could grow our business and serve our audience and all that stuff too. So I just kind of wanted to share this anecdote because I think it's really easy to look at social media and look at other people who are succeeding, and oh my gosh, they're like making all this money, all these views, and their courses and products and all this stuff. And here I am, little old me, like I can't get people to buy a $19 thing, or can't get people to support me on Patreon. It's like, I suck, man. No one's ever going to want that. And it's just like, I'm here to tell you that, like, the path is circuitous. The path is not obvious. You may have to take, 2 steps backward to get 1 step forward sometimes. And maybe you're gonna be able to jump ahead 3 steps, from something that you do, that you discover is like really moves the needle for you. So it's like, it's not always going to be this like, incredible, trajectory upward. So I just kind of wanted to share that anecdote because I don't, I feel like people get down on themselves a lot, and it's not even me. Look at my newsletter. I was growing let's refresh the newsletter. Actually, we didn't do that. Hold on. Let me share my screen. Okay, here we go. I'm going to refresh it. Here we go. What are we at? 19,953. Let's see what we're at now. Oh, we're still at 19,953. Never mind. I was hoping that there would be a giant influx over the last 15 minutes, but not really. That's weird though, because I thought that it was 92 here before, so maybe it's just slow to update. Anyways, if you look at the graph of my growth, let's look at all time, just out of curiosity. So look at this. I mean, So I got my very first subscriber on June 9th of 2020. Okay, my very first subscriber on my newsletter on June 9th. And let's just fast forward a year to June 9th, 2021, 595. So for 1 year, I got 595 subscribers on my newsletter for 1 entire year. And then between June 10th and June 2022, 595 to, so I had, I was to 4,000. So I did jump from 600 to 4,000, right? So it's like, again, the growth is it's growing, but it's slow. It's not slower. And then from here, 4,600 to, a year later, basically, it's 4x again. So it's there's this saying that it's slow. You're an overnight success 10 years in the making, right? So I don't know. I wanted to share this anecdote because I think not a lot of people share the failures, and I'm very comfortable sharing it now. But it was a really hard point in our journey as creators. It was a hard point in our marriage and our relationship, because this thing that we spent so much time doing that didn't ultimately pan out, and we got so much hate for it. It was really, really tough, but we persevered, we pushed through it, and we had each other to rely on. And I think that's such a critical component of having a long-term, career and life as a creator is realizing that sometimes it takes, good things take time. Oh my goodness. I didn't expect this to be a therapy session. It was kind of therapeutic talking about this candidly, because that was like a moment in our life that I don't like thinking about. I don't like looking back on oftentimes because it was really painful. But sometimes going there is important. And we got the praise hands emojis from Getting Negative. So thank you. Hopefully you found it helpful. Andy, what's going on? Good to see you here, tuning in. So any final questions? I think we got maybe time for one more question around sponsorship strategy. I think I maybe saw one on the TikTok. Let me go back here to see if I can see it. There's so many people are joining here. Black Filipina Beth says, do you have advice to new content creators? All right. So my best advice to new content creators is press publish, hit publish, right? Like that is I think that's the biggest obstacle preventing most people from achieving success, achieving greatness, achieving any results is the fear of uncertainty, the fear of being judged, the fear of the content not being good, or, oh, my home, maybe I want to be a lifestyle influencer, cleaning influencer, but my home, oh, it's not, the aesthetic is not nice, or it's just, I don't have a nice home, or I want to do fashion, but I don't have a lot of money to do clothes or whatever. It's like, you have to make do with what you have. Right? Because there's lots and lots of people who are just like you out there who don't have a lot of money. And maybe they do want, help styling their closet with the limited wardrobe that they do have. Right. Or maybe they, people want, advice on how to clean a small space, organize, be more productive, and you just have a studio apartment or whatever. Right. Like there's always people out there who can be impacted by your content and by your work and your expertise. And so it's really easy to just like follow all these other people out there who are giant and have hundreds of thousands of followers or whatever. And get really down on yourself because you're not there, and I'm never going to be there or whatever. And if you let that impact you, if you let that prevent you from even getting started, you're never going to, there's so many, if you are the person who finally uploads your very first piece of content, you are now ahead of 99.9% of people out there. At the end of the day, candidly, you may think that it's so saturated. There's so many creators out there. There's so many people vying for what I want. And so I'm never going to be able to stand out. If that's your attitude, and if you never get started, you literally will never be there. Right. And so the journey of 10,000 steps starts with the first step. Right. And so I really think that, short of all the tactics and strategies and all that stuff too, a lot of it comes down to mindset of how can I believe in myself? How can I overcome this skepticism that I had that I can make any sort of impact on the world? And if you can work on that, if you can work on the mindset stuff too, you'll be way ahead. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to another live streams. These always go so fast. And hopefully, Black Filipina Beth, that helped you. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And we'll be back at it for another live stream next Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And I'll catch you all on the flip side. Peace.